All right, well, let's see if we can wrap this up, huh? And saying, I think I've covered a lot of the stuff already. Saying, which are we going to use, right? We're going to use Access or Excel. Very different programs, very different uses. Access, what's that great at, right? You can store way more data, right? As I just said in our last video, we're talking about 1.04 million. Boy, that's a nerdy thing to know, isn't it? 1.04 million rows in Excel. No limitation like that in Access. 2 gigs worth of data. That's big, man. If you're the NSA or somebody sitting around and you want to record every phone call I ever made, you're going to need to use a database. You're not going to do that in some wimpy little Excel table. All right. You can heap data validation on and really just restrict exactly the kind of data that's getting into there in Access. Right. You can build these really interesting, robust relationships between tables that would just be nearly impossible to do in Excel. You have to sit around and you have to be a master of modeling in VBA to do anything close in Excel to what you can do in Access very easily with the built-in tools. Right? You can build very complex queries, questions that we ask of the data. You can build very large, complex questions of the data very easily in Access. So you can go and you can look at that massive database and ask some very complex questions of it in a very easy and fluid way to get answers back, and it automatically updates. So it's really just a beautiful thing. Oh, there we go. The queries automatically update. Right? Excel. Where it's strong is exactly what you've been learning, right? As this personal productivity tool, right? If we want to just look at a modest data set, 500,000 records or something, and just get in there and do some quick sorting and filtering and a total row, that kind of thing, to do on-the-fly data analysis, Excel is our ticket, right? That's our default program that we're going to go to and mess around with like that. And then there's this, right, is that, one of the reasons that we want to work with data in Excel is because most people at least understand a little bit, maybe not to the level that you've learned now, but they understand a little bit. You give somebody an Access database file, they probably don't know what to do with it, right? So there is that, right? The combination of the two is extremely useful. If you're able to build something in Excel or grab something from some source, bring it into Excel, do some manipulation, and then add it to an Access database and vice versa, pulling stuff out, then you're golden, right? Then you're going to be able to really do some interesting things across these platforms. So the idea is you'll store this massive amount of data in Access, and then you'll go and grab it, chunks of it for what you need, and bring it out into Excel and work with it and do your analysis. Right? And to wrap things up, we've got 4 objects in the Access database that you'll see in the demonstration today, and that's pretty much what we're going to do in the demonstration, is just familiarize ourselves with these objects. We've got a table, right? And that's the heart of any database. Until you have a table, you don't have a database. That is your data, right? All right. We have a form, and a form is just a fancy user interface for people to deal with the table that we've created. We have a query, and that is how we ask the question of the database. That's our mechanism. That replaces the pivot table, the sum of all that stuff we had before. Now we just use queries. Right? And then we've got reports, which are just fancy printable versions of those queries. Finally, we have to know that we have 2 views for each object, right? We have a regular view that we see these things in, and then we also have a design view where we can kind of pop the hood and then go in and mess around with the way these things work. All right, so hey, that's been a long day. We're talking about a lot of concepts and stuff, and probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet, but let's dive in there in a demo and let's take a look at this thing and see just why it is that we're in there and what we can do with Microsoft Access.